What's up, guys? It's Casey Zogelman, aka Bellatrix Rock 16 here, kicking off my Dark Shadows discussion video series here on my channel. And I probably just buried my Dark Shadows discussion video career with this first video. I'm ready for you, comments section. I have been part of the Dark Shadows fandom since 2012. Yes, you heard that year right. And it has been a really rewarding and awesome fandom to be a part of. That is until the topic of the 2012 remake movie comes up. Suddenly I'm dodging silver bullets, running from villagers with torches, stakes, pitchforks, you name it, I am running from it. But here's the thing, the OG fans really don't seem to understand, at least in my opinion, is that the 2012 movie is actually really super freaking important to this fandom. No, it's not an exact replica of the show, it's really far from it. But without it, I honestly believe many new fans would not even know this fandom actually exists. I want to share an experience I had one day on a Dark Shadows fan page. I was leaving a pretty heartfelt comment on a post about why the new movie actually brought in new fans to this fandom, and guess what happened 2 seconds later? I got a reply saying, yeah, but do we really need those fans? I just kind of sat there stunned for a few minutes that somebody would be so bitter about new fans discovering a fandom through a gateway that they deemed, I don't know, horrible. And actually right now, when I was writing this script, I actually got into another one of these debates. I was ridiculed again for defending fans like me when the original post actually said not to ridicule fans of this movie, so apparently, wow, you read the instructions, didn't you guys? So, guess what? That's what today's topic is all about. Why the 2012 film is important despite the poor execution, and why the new fans, like myself, are just as cool as the original fans. Fair warning, there are going to be parts in this I'm going to probably get a little bit heated, because I really do like this movie, so I'm going to say some things you original fans are probably not going to like in favor of this movie, but just bear with me, okay? Just bear with me. I try to see both sides of this never-ending debate, and honestly, I do try to take both sides, but after getting ridiculed several times for something I love that brought me into a fandom I am so happy to be a part of, buckle up, buttercups, we're going for a ride. I love Dark Shadows, original and new. Do I like the original more than the remake? Well, duh. But I like the remake too, for different reasons. I'm going to start us off on why the original will always be the best. You can never beat an original even if it's just for nostalgia's sake. The cheesy special effects of this show are made up for by spectacular writing and amazing acting. And to be real for a second here, this show was pushing the boundaries of special effects for its time. I mean, this was the 60s. Not to mention about I did research on this. I want to say it was maybe just over $2,000 a week for their budget to put out 5 episodes. That requires some creativity and improvisation on behalf of the effects department, guys, and holy cow, let's just give them a round of applause. I mean, they deserve it. Not to mention this show tested the mettle of their actors. Guys, they learned these in a day. A day to a day and a half maximum. Ah! They were at the studio at like 6:30 in the morning doing a read-through for the day. And then they were rehearsing, they were blocking, then it was like dress rehearsals after the second was that lunch was over, and then they were in front of the camera filming to have the episode on air that same day. That is hard freaking work. This was basically live theater plus a camera. You had to power through prop malfunctions, set malfunctions, lighting, sound, camera malfunction, boom mics dropping from the ceiling, line flubs. People, this show is amazing because of how hard these actors and crew worked to bring joy to thousands of fans. Give a freaking huge round of applause to the many actors and actresses still with us, no longer with us, and the crew members and directors and the creator, Dan Curtis, may he rest in peace. This fandom has survived for 51 years. That is no small feat. It's spread through television, book series, fan-made skits, and film. That is a lot. This fandom is awesome, and I'm so happy to call myself a part of it. However, like many new fans my age, I am constantly having to stand up for myself when the OG fans get heated over the thing that brought us newbies here. That's right, guys. I'm talking about the 2012 remake movie.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Yes, it has to be done for my peace of mind, and maybe, just maybe, I can change the minds of those who tend to ridicule fans like myself. Which, that's really not an okay thing, you guys. I'm not saying you have to like the movie. Not in a million years am I saying you have to like the movie. I trash it all the time, even though I love it. So by all means, continue hating it. But I ask you, no, I beg you, stop ridiculing fans who actually like it. We're the new people. Maybe we're really not that bad just because we like the movie that you guys don't. Just listen to my story, consider my position, think of other new fans probably afraid to speak out because of all the backlash, and if I find myself kicked out of Dark Shadows groups and off of DS pages, I will be bitter. But I will never stop being part of this fandom because Dark Shadows, original and new, is in my blood. Pun intended. Just bear with me, guys. In 2012, Tim Burton released his film Dark Shadows. I was so excited because I love Helena Bonham Carter. She is my role model.
That's another story, never mind. Anyway.
And I love Johnny Depp too. So obviously I was massively hype and I wanted to go see it. My friend actually pretty much got abandoned on her birthday that year, and I told her, hey, why don't we go out to eat and then we can go see Dark Shadows, because, I mean, we both want to see it, and we'll call it a birthday celebration. And we did, and that was probably one of the best freaking ideas I've ever had. We went and had a blast. I was rolling with laughter at points, got drawn into the Barnabas versus Angelique story, internally screamed when Helena got killed off again, and just loved this movie. After that, I got really obsessed with the movie, writing fan fictions and making fan art, none of which are on the internet, so don't bother looking for it. And after 2 years of thriving off basically nothing to keep my fangirl heart alive, it happened. In the fall of 2014, I started working at the local library in my town as a bookshelver. I was shelving the fiction section one day when I pulled a book off of my cart with the name Lara Parker on the author space. I almost dropped the book when I read the title, Dark Shadows, Angelique's Descent. I suppressed a very intense scream because I was at work, and more importantly, I was working at a library where you're supposed to be quiet. It doesn't stop some people, but that's beside the point. It was a book on the fandom I had been desperately wanting content for. I read the back of the book and was so close to taking it home that same day, but as I was in my first year of college, I had homework coming out of my butt, and I told myself if the book showed up on my cart again, I'd take it home. I kid you not, it was a week later and the book was back on my cart. It was a sign. It was a sign, especially since Angelique was one of my favorite characters in the movie. I mean, aside from Julia, who I really do love. More on that in future videos. I'm getting off topic. I checked it out, started reading on my break, between classes, occasionally during classes, after homework, between assignments, and one night I stayed awake until 1:30 in the morning to finish this book. I was hooked! I put myself on hold for Salem Branch and promised myself to check out the 3 collections of DVDs we had at work. To my dismay, when I went to get the DVDs, they were gone. I assumed someone had checked them out, but that was not the case. Now, something you guys do need to know is that during this time, my cat that we'd had for 11 years was very sick, and he was basically the family child. Like, we raised him from a bottle, so I was really going through a rough time, and Dark Shadows was there to keep me distracted. I found out that the DVDs were going to be weeded out of the collection, but if I wanted them, I could buy them after they were processed out. So I put a claim on them and waited, and one night at work I opened my locker, and there sat rubber banded together the first 3 collections of Dark Shadows. I was elated, and then I was really sad because I knew it was something good coming before something bad, and the next day we had to go put my cat to sleep. Valentine's Day, 2 days after my cat passed away, my single lady self flopped onto my bed and popped in the first disc of Collection 1. 2 episodes later, in comes Barnabas and everything got crazy. My mind was finally getting the distraction it needed, and 2 days later I was halfway through Collection 2 and I realized I'd just sucked myself into a deep dark hole I was never getting out of! All because I went to see Dark Shadows in 2012. Now that you've heard my story, I'm going to talk about why that movie, as bad as it was actually a good thing. Yes, it was. No, stop. Stop arguing for 2 seconds! Oh, Lord, the comment section is going to be a mess. Hear me out for just a few more minutes, please. Fandoms only survive as long as there are fans to carry on the love. When the 2012 Dark Shadows movie premiered, it opened a door to people who had never heard of Dark Shadows, like me. And I know I'm not alone. I've met and or talked to Dark Shadows fans who said they got into the fandom because they saw that movie. And you know what? Their passion for this series is just as strong as the passion of the original fans. We get crazy. I know I get crazy. I try to watch it when no one's home. That way I can scream. I mean, we came into this fandom with no knowledge of the series, or a very vague knowledge of the series, and we enjoyed a movie we thought looked interesting. Later on, at different paces, we have discovered the series and fallen in love. Yes, there are going to be some who watched the remake and liked it better than the series, but that's not always the case. And that's what most people jump to conclusions about. They think we just love the remake and not the show. Guys, a lot of us actually love them both. Die-hard fangirls like me, who went to the movies and fell in love with Barnabas, Julia, Angelique, David, Carolyn, Elizabeth, everyone. We found our way to the series, and a lot of us fell in love all over again. After watching the show and reading the books, do I think the remake is as good as I did in the beginning? No! It has tons of problems, most of which could have been solved by a lot better writing. I do not blame the actors for the way the movie turned out. As an actress myself, I know actors can only do so much with what they are given to work with before they're called out for straying too far from the script. The writing was awful. It wasn't good. I'm gonna be honest, the only 2 characters who really got the treatment they somewhat deserved were Elizabeth and Angelique. They stayed really strong characters, even though some of Angelique's vulnerability, okay, most of Angelique's vulnerability was left out, but she came to kick butt and take names, and I love her. Both versions. No, I don't think they should have written Julia as a drunk. I really don't after watching the show, because she was such an amazing character. She is things that I'd have to censor, like, she's awesome. She's awesome. So I really don't think she should have been written as a drunk. However, I gotta say, after watching the show, and how much crap she has to go through to fix all of Barnabas's messes, or at least 99% of them, no freaking wonder they made her a drunk. I'd be drinking too if I had to deal with that every day. But the thing is, Helena Bonham Carter is a freaking amazing actress. And she could have done Julia so much justice, not to say that she didn't, because she did. She really did, with what she was given. Had they written her the way she should have been. I don't like that they combined the characters of Maggie and Vicky. Both were amazing in their own right, and when they put her together, she was like a 1970s version of Bella Swan. She was deadpan and boring. I didn't like her combined. I was just like, separate them, please. They were more interesting that way. And the same goes for Carolyn and Quentin. Carolyn was still pretty interesting. That's okay. I'm gonna admit that Carolyn was still pretty interesting, but Quentin, Quentin is Quentin. Oh, love Quentin. Love him, love him, love him. Getting off topic again. But I still really do love this movie. I own it. I watch it quite often. It brings me joy. And it really helps. This is something that I've tried, and it actually helps. OG fans, try this. It really helps to think of this story as another one of the parallel time paradoxes. Because nobody's themselves in those anyway. It's like, it's just another parallel time story. Let's just call it that. I love the film despite the amount of flaws it has, and there are plenty that I can and will address in another video. I know lots of people love it too, and that has made this fandom grow larger and larger over the last 5 years. New fans bring in new love. New love brings the fandom to life again. Not that I'm saying the fire ever died. It grew bigger and bigger since 2012. It was still burning. I attended the 50th anniversary convention in Tarrytown last year, in 2016. I met several fans there that were just like me, saw the movie, got sucked into the show. We all jumped headfirst into a black hole we didn't realize we were just gonna get stuck in. And you know who I went as? I went dressed as Julia from the 2012 movie. I was very surprised I didn't get the crap kicked out of me. But you know why? Because I was there, just like the original fans, to share my love of Dark Shadows with other fans. There were probably 1,000 people there over the whole weekend. And there were young people just like me. New fans help fandoms live on by carrying the torch into tomorrow. I would not be making this video or the next several Dark Shadows videos right now if Tim Burton had not made Dark Shadows. I would not constantly be screaming, "Kiss her, you fool!" at Jonathan Fred's Barnabas anytime he has an intimate moment with Grayson Hall's Julia if I had not gone to see Johnny Depp and Helena Bonham Carter in Dark Shadows. I would not be sobbing in agony over Lara Parker's book about Angelique's backstory and screaming internally every time something bad happens to her on the show if I had not seen Ava Green kicking butt in Dark Shadows. I would not be having as much fun in a fandom like I do with Harry Potter if I had not gone to the movies in May of 2012 for a friend's birthday to see Dark Shadows. So the next time something's posted about this film and someone says they love it, please, I beg of you, stop and think before you call them out and make fun of them for loving it, because they could have stories like my own. The 2012 film opened a door for people to fall in love with the characters and find their way to the original series so many people grew up watching. You guys came home after school every day to watch Dark Shadows. I do the same thing now, only on DVD. This fandom will live on forever as long as one generation of fans passes the torch to the next generation to carry it into tomorrow. Whether the torch is passed from a grandmother to a grandchild who comes home saying they watched Johnny Depp play a vampire, and then grandma says, "Come watch this show with me." And the child watches in awe as Jonathan Frid rises from his coffin, Lara Parker casts a spell on an unsuspecting victim, David Selby battles against the full moon, and Grayson Hall saves the day once again. Or, if the torch is passed from someone going to see a remake movie to someone like me who finds the novel Angelique's Descent and finds himself 3 collections into the show unable to get out of a fandom they unknowingly jumped into. I dove hard. We, the new fans, want to help you, the original fans, carry on Dark Shadows. You just have to accept us, flaws and all. like we do the remake. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening to my side of the story about the remake of Dark Shadows and why I think it is important to the Dark Shadows fandom. I hope I didn't offend too many of you original fans, but I just want to be able to leave a happy comment about Depp's Barnabas without getting thrown to the werewolves. This film will help carry the fandom onward towards the future by bringing in new fans. I hope I made some good points and you all were moved by my story of how I jumped headfirst into this fandom. It was like getting hit by a truck that I didn't see coming. It really is one of my main fandoms, and I hope to pass on the love to my kids one day, God willing. If you enjoyed this video, please drop a like, subscribe if you haven't, and stay tuned for my series of Dark Shadows discussion videos. I promise you are not going to want to miss the next one. If you love Barnabas and Julia as much as I do, stay tuned and I'll see you later.